congregation. We're so happy you're all with us this morning. My name is Joyce Ramay, and I will be leading our service today. Here you will find a diverse and inclusive spiritual community where we welcome people with many beliefs. You can bring your whole self, your full identity, your questioning mind, and your expansive heart. At All Faiths, we have more than one way of experiencing the world and understanding the sacred. No matter who you are, wherever you are on your spiritual journey, and whomever you love, you are truly welcome here. Is anyone visiting for the first or second time? If you raise your hand, welcome, welcome. We're glad you've joined us. If you'd like to know more about All Faiths, you can see Ramay at our Welcoming Center by the folding doors. And also we're having a newcomers orientation session on the 17th at 10 o'clock in the morning, so you could talk with Fran about attending that. We have a lot of announcements today. If you don't have anything to do in your life, it's not our fault. I don't want to hear you're bored and have nothing to do. Okay. First of all, we don't have a child and youth program today because one of our youth, Emmie Spiller, is giving the message. And all of our young people are invited to remain with us to hear the life experience of a teenager. At the front door, you'll find that Annalie Hudanik, please stand. Annalie is selling her handmade cards. Annalie makes the most beautiful cards, and she's selling those to benefit Operation Joyce. So see her outside at her table. Then also in the front lobby, you'll see that Ariel Hoover and Bob Moore are selling tickets for December 9th. They're going to serve dinner and show the movie Mission Joy, which is a conversation between those two wonderful people, Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu. That's going to be a great night on December 9th. Then on December 15th, we're having a holiday sing-along and open mic program, and Carlos will be playing, and that's a night where you get to let loose and share all those good stories with the universe. Okay, and tomorrow night, I want all of you people to come. My favorite song of all time is Getting to Know You. Here at All Faiths, we have a practice of sharing the odyssey of our members. Unfortunately, we had to cancel a couple of those recent ones due to the Hurricane Ian. Tomorrow night at 7 o'clock here, we're going to learn about the odyssey of Peter Erickson. He's on our board of directors and wonderful Minnesotan. We got a few of those here. So tomorrow night here at 7 o'clock. Then on Fridays, we have dominoes in the afternoon where you get to have some fun. Thursday afternoons at 2 o'clock, we have choir rehearsals. And during the month of December, we're having collections for employee bonuses. You can write a check and write bonuses on the lower left corner. And today we have a model with us. Charlotte Blitt, please come forward. The next 2 Sundays, Charlotte is going to be selling crafts from Bolivia. Mano a Mano. Mano a Mano is a great organization founded by 2 All Faiths members, Joan and Segundo Velazquez. They started out by bringing medical supplies left over in hospitals from Minneapolis and St. Paul to Bolivia. And now they have built schools, they've built roads, they have built wells for villages, and we help to support that activity by buying their crafts. So bring money next 2 Sundays for Mano a Mano. Aren't they beautiful? Yeah. Beautiful ladies. So as I said, it's not our fault. Huh? Lots going on. Annalie.
One more. Next Saturday, 1 o'clock, the Solos will have their annual holiday spectacular at Christoph's. Please make reservations with me. Thank you.
All right. And then every Sunday we have News Talk with Ray Ellis. We will have no child and youth program in December. Our director of the program is going to Egypt, pyramids, and we look forward to hearing about that adventure later. Now I invite you to rise in body and spirit as we sing together, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In.
Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your ears to the song. Open your ears to the song. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your hearts, everyone. Open your hearts, everyone. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Don't be afraid of some change. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in.
And now as Annalie Hudanik comes forward to light the chalice, please join in reciting the words in your order of service. As we light our chalice, let us contemplate the ways in which we can develop a spirit of gratitude, even through our brokenness. At this time, we invite you to come forward to share your personal joys and sorrows, wonderful things happening in your lives or things that make you sad. I've been reminded we do not want political announcements. So there's a lot of good things happening. We'd like to hear about it, and if you have any sorrows, we'd like to hear about those. So please come forward. Dottie.
I'm Dottie Mayall. I attended the festival at our sister UU Church on Shire Lane. They had a seed and plant festival yesterday. Very, very well organized. I urge you all to support our sister congregation and attend some of their events. Speakers, musicians, food trucks, plant sales, you name it. And they have a new minister, Reverend Sue, I forget her last name.
Sue Gabrielson. I had lunch with her, and she's a lovely, lovely woman, and we're looking forward to more collaboration with them. Does anyone else have any joys or sorrows they'd like to share with us? Annalie?
Well, my great joy is that you all supporting Operation Joy. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I don't want to tell you that we collected 67 cans last week, just like the lottery numbers. But I especially want to thank two people. Susan Meissner, who went through a great deal to send me a check, and Linda Runkle. Every week, I get an Amazon package with whatever food is collected that week, and that gives me great joy. Thank you, Linda.
So our people are connected with us even when they're up north or displaced. And now I light this candle for all of you who have joys and sorrows in your hearts. Know that you are not alone. And please reach out to those who are at home alone and are not able to join us in person. They will appreciate your calls and cards. Now I'd like to ask everyone to close your eyes, take a deep breath. Let us turn our minds and our hearts to the morning service and all of the blessings in our lives. Please rise in body and spirit as we sing together hymn number 123, Spirit of Life.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hands, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
We celebrated Thanksgiving holiday this past week. We know that many of us have experienced challenging times, often dealing with broken health, broken relationships, and homes broken by Hurricane Ian. Yet, through all of these hardships, we will benefit from realizing that they can provide us with opportunities to reflect upon our priorities in life with greater appreciation for the people and the values that truly matter the most.
When I look back upon my life, it's always with a sense of shame. I've always been the one to blame for everything I long to do, no matter where or when or who, has one thing in common too. It's a sin. It's a sin. Everything I've ever done, everything I've ever do, every place I've ever been, everywhere I'm going to, it's a sin. At school they taught me how to be so pure in thought and word and deed. They didn't quite succeed. For everything I long to do, no matter when or where or who, has one thing in common too. It's a sin. It's a sin. Everything I've ever done, everything I ever do, every place I've ever been, everywhere I'm going to, it's a sin. So I look back upon my life forever with a sense of shame. I've always been the one to blame for everything I long to do, no matter where or when or who, has one thing in common too. It's a sin. It's a sin. Everything I've ever done, everywhere I ever do, every place I've ever been, everywhere I'm going to, it's a sin.
Thank you, Carlos. That's no sin. All right. Many of us don't feel thankful right now, but I continue to learn how we can experience the blessings of a thankful heart, no matter what life throws us on our journey. A question I continue to ask myself today and most days to keep my heart in check: what can I be grateful for today? Think about it. What can I be grateful for today? We are created to reflect the image of God and to walk in wholeness, yet we live in a broken world. If we are honest, most don't like to or want to admit they are broken. We like to hide behind many masks and pretend all is well. Ever catch yourself answering the question, "Hey, how are you?" And on those days you automatically say, "I'm fine," when you really aren't. One thing I liked about living in Pakistan, they didn't say, "How are you?" They said, "Kya hua?" What's happening? Think about it. Maybe we should start saying what's happening. Brokenness is often seen or described as having been fractured or damaged and no longer in one piece or in working order, or of having given up all hope, despairing. But it's quite okay to admit you are broken. There can be beauty amidst brokenness. Actually, there can be an even more beautiful picture revealed to us through or after the pain, sorrow, and dysfunction of our messes in our life, as we allow the light of God to shine brightly through the broken pieces of our lives. So peace to you this Thanksgiving season amidst life's brokenness. Please rise in body or spirit as we sing together hymn 349, "We Gather Together."
"347, Gather the Spirit." Gather the Spirit, harvest the power, our separate fires will kindle the flame. Witness the mystery of this hour, our trials in this night appear all the same. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then, gather in hope, compassion, and strength, gather to celebrate once again. Gather the Spirit growing in awe, draw by the moon and fed by the sun, winter the spring and summer to fall, the chorus of life resounding as one. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then, gather in hope, compassion and strength, gather to celebrate once again.
Everyone, are you guys able to hear me? We all had a happy Thanksgiving this past week. I know normally on a service after Thanksgiving, a lot of people would come up and maybe tell the story of Thanksgiving, but I thought I'd talk about gratitude through brokenness, which is something I think a lot of us can relate to right now. I want to start out by defining brokenness, which, defined by the Cambridge Dictionary, means a state of strong emotional pain that stops someone from living a normal or healthy life. I came of age during brokenness, as many others my age have. By the time COVID was in full swing, I had just turned 14. I was coming out of one of the best years of my life so far. I had just wrapped up my first main stage production. I was in the Crucible. Shortly after, I was a lead in a student-led production. I was an actress in a piece that won a Critics' Choice Award, and luckily, I got to spend some valuable time with two actors during that, one who sadly passed away after a battle with cancer, which he fought well. And then after that, I went to Alabama to spend Thanksgiving with my dad's family, and then after that, the very start of January, I was off to Sacramento, California for a theater competition. Not even a week after I was home, I headed to Washington, D.C., where I got to see the impeachment of Donald Trump, which, as we all know, the outcome. And even then, I still had so many more opportunities lined up, and I was grateful for every single one of them. Unfortunately, as it did with many other things, the pandemic cut it all off. Something we thought would only take a couple weeks of our time turned into an event that would change the course of what normal could be defined as. It would change the course of an entire generation. The news was filled with death counts on the screen, statistics filling our heads with the lives lost, normality seeming like something far from the past. I'll admit, I didn't have any hope of things being as they once were, and they weren't. I was right for that. But we adapted as a society, as a town, as a community. We did our part the best we could. A lot of us stayed in, wore masks on the rare outings we had to do. We kept up with friends and family through the phone, calls and texts, and even the occasional card in the mail. I mean, look at us even, here at All Fates. We started streaming our services so we could keep some form of togetherness. I still remember some mornings where I'd wake up and almost forget. It would feel like a somewhat normal day until I came downstairs and opened up any social media app or looked on the TV, and I'd remember how we were in lockdown. I was fortunate. I had it easier than a lot of people did. We were able to stay financially stable during this time. We had a roof over our heads and lived in an area where we still had access to groceries easily. With things such as Amazon, we were able to order pretty much everything we needed, which, whether it came on time, was a different story. I was patient in the beginning, as everyone was, and it was terrifying. We were going through a pandemic, something that hadn't happened since the Spanish flu pandemic in 1918. It wasn't unprecedented ground, but it was something we were extremely unprepared for, not only as a country, but as a world in a whole. As months passed, I felt fatigued, just like everyone else. I grew tired of the continuous promises of things getting back to normal. The numbers went up and down. During some weeks, it was okay to go out and do things. The numbers would decrease just a little bit before skyrocketing back up. Things were just constantly up and down, unpredictable. But during all of this, I couldn't help but feel like I was missing out. I would watch these dumb, stereotypical teen movies, you know, the ones from the 2000s and the early 2010s, like Perks of Being a Wallflower, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, with the teenagers throwing parties and going out with friends, and I'd feel jealous. I wanted to be these characters in a way. I wanted to do what they did. I felt selfish. All I wanted was to be a normal 14-year-old. People were dying, and all I could focus on was parties and going out. By the end of COVID, or at least what we could say was the worst of it, I was about halfway through 15. I'm a January baby, which means this was about midway through 2021. By this point, I had lost about a year and a half of my life. Everyone else did as well, but these were the formative years of my life, as I was told by everyone growing up. I've always been told I'm an old soul, and I have always yearned to be older, no matter what age I was. I was counting down to 13 by the time I could count. My parents were constantly having to tell me I still wasn't 13 yet. I'd be 8 and they'd have to tell me, no, you are not 13 yet. You're closer to 5 than you are 13. But of course I wouldn't hear any of that. Being a teenager felt like some ticket into a new chapter. A lot of things were 13 plus. Events and classes were constantly geared towards teenagers. Turning 13 felt like some odd, magical number. 2019 was my first full year of what felt like adult freedom, which obviously I felt more adult than I actually was. So it hurt, regardless of how selfish I know it was when that got cut short. I believe that COVID-19 made everyone stronger. It was horrific what we all went through, the losses that happened, the damage done to everyone mentally and physically. But through it all, you saw communities come together and adapt in ways they wouldn't otherwise. During holidays, we couldn't get together in person, so instead families did Zoom Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. You'd see Zoom birthday parties, people watching TV shows and movies together virtually, reconnecting with people they wouldn't have spoken to, even if it was just out of pure boredom. Lifelong friendships and bonds were created through social media. Something that was already starting to become a lot less taboo became completely normal. I myself have created some of my closest bonds with people I've met on social media, who live locally, I promise. Some of my best friends today, who I spend most of my time talking to, are people who were once just names mentioned out of mutuals' mouths during conversation. They were once nothing more than a username on my screen, until one day in the middle of our second quarantine summer, I'd post something we both enjoyed and we'd start up a conversation. With older connections, we'd have long conversations about the places we would visit and the things we would do once everything was over, or at least that sense of hopelessness was gone. I met some of my favorite people this way, including my boyfriend of a year and a half, whom I met in an Instagram group chat with other friends, which, when I told my grandmother about, gave her a heart attack. Conversations with these new connections were rejuvenating and replenished my hope for what was to come. Everything was, of course, difficult after we could go out into the community again, as I began to live my life outside of the four walls of my house. It was almost like I had to relearn to interact with people again. I couldn't just turn off my camera and mute my audio if I thought something someone said was stupid and I needed to hide it. And if you know my family, you know it's kind of difficult. Nor was I able to take 10 minutes to process something someone had said to me by pretending to have audio issues or just not opening the text. I had to actually go out and speak to people again. Something that was actually so surprisingly anxiety-inducing after all of that time of having that safety net there. I'm sure many of you felt that too, as I know my peers did, when we were suddenly navigating a whole different era of our lives than we were pre-pandemic. Dating, school, job interviews, all of the normal teenage challenges were completely different than they had been for us the past 2 previous years. On top of that, the death toll was still wavering, and we were all just on edge, waiting for the fear to be there once again. But nevertheless, we all went forward. My favorite painter was a woman named Frida Kahlo, who suffered from an awful bus accident when she was just 18. She was bedridden for months and had caused her issues lifelong for long after. There are many quotes and pieces of art of hers that play in my head commonly, but one that often comes to mind right now is, "At the end of the day, we can endure much more than we think we can." I believe that now we can see this more than ever. In the middle of all of it, a lot of us weren't sure if we'd ever make it through. If there was even a light at the end of the tunnel, things were so dark and suffocating. The loss was beginning to be too much, and our entire lives were just filled with brokenness. We were all just trying to get by without letting it consume us. And in the end, of course, we persevered and came out stronger than before, feeling fatigued, but as if nothing else could hit us and be that awful and isolating again. We'd put together resources, banded together to give out masks, offer supplies to those when there were shortages, even take people to get their vaccines. We kept COVID tests at home the moment they were readily available in case we ever felt if we were a medical risk to others. We felt thankful for what we had and for what we had gained. We mourned our losses, but we still had gratitude in a sense we hadn't before. Now, of course, many other places are experiencing heart-wrenching things. But as a community, we had our own personal hit that followed. Hurricane Ian devastated thousands upon thousands of people. People who were just starting to recover from the effects of COVID lost their homes, their family members, jobs, and so much more. People had to gut their homes and put their whole lives on the side of the street. Just when things started to get better again, tragedy struck. But this time, it didn't take as long before everyone was up in action. Locally alone, we had FK Your Diet, which is a play on Foster Kid Your Diet, I promise, ran by Doug Miller and his beloved Emmie Aldridge. Doug was one who could tell you about brokenness. Growing up as a foster kid, he was never even able to attend a night out at the movies, but Doug took that brokenness and turned it into a restaurant where he served up the meals he learned from his foster parents. Every year, he provides every foster kid in Lee County with a pair of Nikes and a laptop. Doug and Emmie have been feeding the community long after the government and organizations have stopped. Already, they've given out more than 125,000 meals. We had the J.N. Ding Darling National Wildlife Refuge out on Sanibel helping with rescue and cleaning. Little shops and restaurants with any supplies would gather what they could spare and head out. It wasn't just businesses you'd see out helping either. Neighbors helped recover houses, people stood on the sides of the street, handing out water bottles. Others did their own welfare checks around them. And you didn't see anybody asking about their sexuality or the color of their skin or their political views. You just saw a community coming together and helping one another. just grateful that we had the opportunity to be together once again, to do these things in person. The devastation caused by Hurricane Ian couldn't break a community that had already once come together in order to survive. It's not that I don't believe that people would have shown up pre-COVID, but more about the fact that I know we knew what it felt like to be isolated, hopeless, and alone. We knew what it was like to live through brokenness in a broken community. The word gratitude is defined by the Cambridge Dictionary as a strong feeling of appreciation to someone or something for what the person has done to help you. And I believe that word took on a completely different meaning through all this. Gratitude was something so much special than it was before. We experienced gratitude in a way we never could have before. We suffered together. We cried together. We mourned together. And then in the end, we came together through a pandemic, a lockdown, a devastating hurricane. We came together and we helped one another. That light at the end of the tunnel the second time around was much more reachable as we strived in unity. It was a lot less scary this time because not only did we know how to go through the worst alone, but this time we had other people with us. We had the community we couldn't have before. The tunnel filled with so much grief, pain, and brokenness was ended with a bright, beaming light. And that light was filled with hope, community, and gratitude. So, I have a joke I want to tell you guys. I know we have a tradition where at the end of every sermon we have a joke to tell, so I'm going to continue on with that. One is a little longer than the other, and then one's shorter. I had to pick two. I couldn't pick. There were like 7, but, I'm not going to sit here and waste your time. A newcomer took a seat in one of the pews at First Unitarian. When the minister began preaching about liberal theology, the newcomer became more and more enthusiastic and finally shouted, "Amen!" when the preacher definitively proved the use of reason was essential to religion. There was a longtime member of the church in the next pew who leaned over and glared at the newcomer. "In this church, we do not shout amen during the sermon," hissed the longtime member. The newcomer, looking flustered, said, "But I've got religion." "Well," hissed the longtime member, "you did not get it from here." My second one, that's much shorter, was, "Why did the UU cross the road?" "To support the chicken in its search for its own path." Something we're quite good at, I think.
Wow, we can really be grateful to have such a wonderful young lady in our congregation. Emmie, you were just fabulous. I'm going to share a little confidence here. She talked a lot about becoming 13. I remember when she became 13, she came up to me, "Mama," and she said, "I'm having so many problems with my mother." And I said, "Emmie, how old are you?" And she said, "I'm 13. And I said, "You plan on that for the next 5 years." Because you know you're all grown up, but your mama thinks you're still her little girl.
2 more to go, Mom.
You got a couple years left, so plan on it. Okay. All right. So now our morning offering will be taken. Thank you, Carlos, and the All Voices Choir. Our closing words are by Sri Avinash. Gratefulness is a great tool to enhance your life. Daily gratitude is like medicine for the heart and soul, bringing more and more happiness and well-being. Even if you are going through hardship, you can still find things to be grateful for, and practicing this will transform your life. And now Carlos is singing Good Riddance to all of those hardships.
I know some of you know the words. Feel free to sing along. Another burning point of fork stuck in the road. Time goes by, the race directs you when you go. So make the best of this test and don't ask why. It's not a question but a lesson learned in time. It's something unpredictable, but in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life. So take the photographs and still frames in your mind. Hang it on a shelf in good health and good time. Tattoos of memories and dead skin on trial. For what it's worth, it was worth all the while. It's something unpredictable, and in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life. Something unpredictable, but in the end it's right. I hope you had the time of your life. It's something unpredictable, but in the end it's right. I hope you had the time of your life.
Well, today is a day of gratitude, and I am particularly grateful for Emmie Spiller and her profound message. Emmie, please stand. We're so proud of you, and I know you're all grown up, but we'll keep it secret from your mama. Okay, and Carlos and the choir for the music, thank you so much. And Regina Kilmartin for holding everything together here, Sharon Gray on camera, and Ed Elrod on our sound, and Joe Gayton, our sexton, and Joyce Schaefer for the beautiful roses that we have today, and Linda Bigelow for the hospitality. And today we're having our ice cream social, and this month it's sponsored by Barb McFarlane, and Michelle Gemma will be handling the serving, so we ask that you stay behind afterwards. And another final reminder, come tomorrow night at 7 o'clock to get to know Peter Erickson. Now, as Annalie Hudanik comes forward to extinguish the chalice, please join in reciting the words in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and out into the world. Go now in peace with the spirit of gratitude and join together for ice cream, coffee, conversation, and hugs.